If you're a vendor at art and craft fairs, these are the 10 mistakes that you want to avoid making at your next show. Number one, succumbing to criticism. You're going to have people come up to your booth and say, oh, I can make that, or they're going to criticize your prices, or you might hear some snarky remarks either to your face or behind your back. You're going to have to try to brush this off. Just have thick skin. It's going to happen. And really, in any situation, even if it's a bad situation, try to find some kind of a silver lining out of it. Like what good can you take from a bad situation, when something like this happens? So just believe in yourself, have confidence, trust your process, trust your items that you've made. And if you can take something constructive out of, criticism that you might hear, out of remarks that you hear from visitors and shoppers, take it, do what you can with it and move on. So don't let that weigh you down and don't let it be an anchor just dragging you down. Number two, don't badmouth the event organizer or your fellow vendors at the show unless absolutely necessary, and even still try to do it behind closed doors. There's going to be some difficulties that happen at just about every, craft fair. And, there might be some disagreements or something like that, or maybe there's a couple of vendors next to each other that don't get along very well. You have to be civil about this at all times, even when something is upsetting to you. You can't kill the vibe of the entire show for everybody, so you don't want to make any kind of outburst or anything like that, or don't make a scene. If you need to talk to the event organizer, and hopefully they're there, pull them aside, just take a minute and pull them aside and have a private conversation, composed, take a breath, and analyze the situation and lay it out as clearly as you can and just be concise with it. Again, you just don't want to make a scene because you're going to kill the vibe for the entire show for everybody. You're probably going to scare some shoppers away from people that might not even be involved in this situation in the first place. Like I said, just don't badmouth the event organizer. Don't badmouth fellow vendors. Try to make it private. And if it's something that you can follow up on after the show, that's great. And if it has to happen during the show, just, keep it private and do the best that you can with it in a composed manner. Number three, don't leave the event advertising up to the organizer. There's a lot of reasons behind this. From an organizer's perspective, I'll tell you that, generally they have the pick of the litter for what vendors they want to have at their shows. So if you're not pitching in to kind of help out and, helping to market the event, that can be a little bit of a black mark, towards you for future consideration at different events, so keep that in mind. But really, I think it should be a community effort between, of course, the organizer themselves, but then also all the vendors. A lot of times, when I was organizing events, one of the really cool things that I like to see was, some of the vendors would have shoppers kind of lined up at an event. Maybe they talked beforehand and they had like a particular item that they were going to sell, at the show, so they didn't have to worry about shipping or anything like that. And what I would see a lot of times is, the shopper would come in to meet up with that particular vendor. So a lot of times they would say, hey, what booth is so-and-so in, and you could direct them towards them. And maybe a couple hours later, they were leaving the show with a hell of a lot more bags than just the original thing that they came for. So if you think about this, how much this can, compound and multiply if every vendor is doing this, where, maybe they're bringing, different people in or different shoppers in. It's going to have a huge trickle effect, and a ripple effect throughout the entire event, because, that person might just be coming for the single item, but then all of a sudden they're visiting 3 or 4 booths and making purchases at 3 or 4 booths. So this is just yet another reason why it's so important for each of the vendors to do their advertising and recruiting as well, because it can truly make a massive impact on the success and sales and buying power at the event. Number 4, don't put all your eggs in one basket as far as the items you bring and what you plan on selling at your booth. Okay, so every vendor has their hot items. They're really reliable items that are, pretty much guaranteed to carry them through a show. So that's great. I would recommend having a few other items within your niche, within your space of art and crafts that you create. And those also might start to catch on. Okay. So you want to have kind of like your reliable ones, and then maybe some new ones that you're working on that could one day become heavy hitters as well and really reliable items as well. What you don't want to do is you don't want to spread your booth out so much into so much variety that there is no identity. When a visitor's walking by and when a shopper's at a craft fair, they want to see some kind of an identity at your booth, whether it's woodworking or glasswork or textiles, whatever it might be. So you want to kind of stay within a realm where that person can kind of count on you for being, the good woodworker or the good ceramics person. But I think when vendors start to get themselves into trouble is when they really, really start to spread themselves out into having so many different types of crafts that there's really no identity and there's no brand anymore at the booth. Number 5, don't overwhelm the shoppers. Okay, so this one's really important. It kind of just, there's going to be like an art to it. There's going to be a feel to it. But when somebody's approaching your booth, be friendly, say hello, be standing, of course, if possible. And, you don't want to be, sitting or slouching or have your head down or have your head in your phone. That's probably the worst thing that you can be doing. But, be present, but don't be overbearing. Okay, so you're going to have to find that balance between present and available, for questions, or maybe they'll have a couple of questions for you, like, how was this made, or what inspired you to make this, or something like that. But you also don't want to hound on people and pounce on people. That is a huge, huge turnoff for buyers, and they will definitely duck out of your booth for that. So, like I said, there's a little bit of an art to it, but just get comfortable, get comfortable talking to people and talking about your work, especially, even if you want to practice with like your family or friends, neighbors at first, just to kind of get your feet wet where you can be comfortable talking about your work without be absolutely overbearing with it. Number 6, don't use cheap tablecloths or signage. So this is something that you'll definitely grow into the longer that you are an art and craft fair vendor. When you're first starting out, everybody, has their humble setups when they're first, starting out. But as you start to grow and you decide that you're starting to take this more seriously, this is definitely one of the things that you want to jump on sooner rather than later is, your booth display, the feel of your booth. With signage in general, you definitely, if you have a business name, you want to definitely have your business name present where it's very easy to see. What I would recommend is maybe having a banner made, and, these aren't too expensive to create, but what I would have is your business name, first of all, and then what you create on there, you want to have, glassworks or metalworks or whatever it might be, you want to have that on there as well. And if you have a website, you can add that, of course, or some kind of contact information where somebody could follow up with you. Because if somebody likes your booth, or they have a friend that would like your booth, but they're not present at the event, what they can do is just take a picture right there and, get in touch with you later on and find out the next event that you're at. But that's definitely one of the simple things that you can do to kind of get yourself established and get your booth presence, a little bit more concrete, is to have a banner and some signage made advertising you, who you are and what you make. But secondarily, you also want to have some signage displayed throughout your booth. Do you accept cards? Do you accept square? Just little things like that. Do you have any kind of deals going on where it's, buy two items, get, $5 off, or any kind of coupons for multiple purchases, or whatever you want to do, but just make it clear for people. One of the worst things that you can do is to have, you've invested so much time into creating your works and, getting to the fair and getting your booth set up and everything. But then, none of the items are marked and nobody knows what the price is on items, or if you have any specials, or how it's made, or how long you've been doing this, or anything about you. You want to make those things so clear that people don't even have to ask you for them. So just make sure that you have every item marked, that it's easy to understand what things cost. And if you have any coupons or deals, your name, how to get a hold of you, and definitely have those business cards at your booth. That is an absolute must. Number 7, and this one might sound harsh, but it's true. Don't bring very young kids to an art and craft fair if you're a vendor. Um, it's going to put a lot of people in a tricky situation, in a very difficult situation. Right off the top of my head, I can tell you the organizer is going to be in a little bit of a bind because their main job is to keep all vendors in that building that whole day happy. That is their main job. And, if there's a young kid who is crying or screaming or running around or causing chaos, it can put a lot of people in tricky situations, and it can cause a rift very, very quickly at a craft fair. So, just try your best, to, if you have kids, get a sitter for the day, or, ask a friend or family member, if they can do you a solid and, watch the kids for the day. And I know that, things can happen and life happens, but at every show, you want to make a good impression, not just to the shoppers, but your fellow vendors, the organizer, everybody. And like I said, automatically, right from the get-go, it's putting a lot of people in a tricky situation. So, do your best, do everything you can. Don't bring the super young kids to an art and craft fair. Number 8, don't leave your booth unattended if possible. Now, every now and then there's going to be times where, you absolutely have to walk away from your booth to use the restroom or, whatever, but try to keep those to an absolute bare minimum if possible. Just think about it. Every single minute that you spend away from your booth is another minute that, you could possibly be missing out on an interaction with a shopper who, maybe they make a purchase that day and maybe they actually become like a long-term follower of yours. And if you miss that single opportunity, then that's gone forever, So just, do everything that you can. Plan ahead, bring yourself some water, bring yourself some snacks. If you can have a helper with you for the entire day. And I know that might be tricky. Some people, it's hard to get a helper to commit to spending 8, 10, 12 hours with you the entire day. But, that's a huge asset if you're able to get a helper with you. You don't want to miss out on anything. You don't want to miss out on any sales, any future connections. Just don't spend too much time away from your booth. Number 9, don't show up to the event in shabby clothing. Okay, so again, a little bit of an uncomfortable topic to talk about, but just kind of plan ahead. Think about your loading and your unloading situation. How complicated is that? Think about the venue that the event is going to be at. What's the loading and unloading situation there? Are there helpers or are you by yourself? Are you going to be trucking through grass and, mud or gravel? So you want to think about that. What a lot of vendors will do is they'll bring like a second pair of shoes with them, so they'll kind of have like a supply tote for the day, and they'll have like their loading and unloading shoes, which might be, a little bit more rugged, or tennis shoes or something like that. And then during the show, they'll slide on something a little bit nicer, so that they can have like a nicer appearance during the show. So that's one really nice option that you can do. And even just down to your clothing in general too. Loading and unloading is a tremendous amount of work. And a lot of times you're really, really up against a clock, so you really only have like a certain amount of time to get set up. And by the time you're done unloading and just prepping your booth in the morning, you're already exhausted. So just plan ahead, have this worked out in your mind ahead of time, what you'll want to bring for yourself, for your appearance, while you're loading, and then during the day and throughout the day. Definitely plan on some kind of comfortable shoes because, art and craft fairs are just a tremendous amount of work for a single day. And, I highly recommend that you stand all day if possible. It just creates a more engaging and attentive appearance when visitors are coming by. So you'll want to have some comfortable shoes on throughout the day so that, by the time you get to the end of the day, you're not completely wiped that you can't do anything. So just plan ahead, plan your appearance ahead and you'll be all set. Number 10, do not eat a super sloppy meal at your booth. So the event that you're at, maybe there's some crazy food trucks or, some taco trucks or something like that. But, think about your booth, think about the way that you're presenting yourself to people. And I do realize that it's going to be a long day and you have to eat and you should eat, okay, because you're going to need that energy to get you through. But, you don't want to be having like some, 7-layer taco, at your textile booth where, anything can stain on any given moment. So, just kind of play it smart, it's, stick to water if you can, even if you spill it, it's not that big of a deal. And your food, just bring some healthy snacks, like something with protein that'll, kind of give you that extra push that you need to get through the day. But yeah, it sounds like common sense, but I promise you it is not. So just stick to it, and present yourself in a good manner, and that'll set yourself up for a successful day at your show. Thanks for watching.